just for you and me. The dogwood was never to grow strong and tall again. Hello, this is Lonnie Jones. Welcome to my life story. Lonnie Jones' life story and what God's done for me in my lifetime up to this point. We got a long way to go. 78 years, a long way to go for what God's done for me. And so we're going to sort of, we left off. He let me out. He let me out at 95 Carroll Street in South Nashville in the projects. That's where my sister lived. That's where Bernie let me out and gave me $50 for all the work I'd done. I ended up with actually a $50 bill. Just like to broke his heart, I'm sure. But I worked myself pretty hard that summer. A lot of hard work putting those things up and taking them down. But it wasn't nothing. It wasn't a big deal. It's like I tell them over. We eat over at Hardee's quite a bit in Old Hickory. And everybody talking about vacation. I told them when I left the farm, I've been on vacation ever since. So let me tell you right now. Shocking hay and putting hay in a barn and gathering corn, putting up those tents was a breeze. Wasn't anything to putting those things up and tearing them down. After being on the farm all your life, I will promise you there wasn't anything to it. I was just like on vacation doing it. I just wish I'd got paid for it, but I didn't. So enough for not getting paid for it. So he's let me off at Carroll Street, give me a $50 bill. I'd go knock on the door, my sister lets me in. And so I'm staying with my sister, and so I am going to go find me a job the next day because we all know even in 1960, $50 wasn't but $100. So, and I'm just 18 years old and I need to get a job, so I went the next day. First job I found was for service merchandise. I'm sure most everybody out there has heard of service merchandise. Well, I got a job at service merchandise, and they used to have a store right next door to the bank on 4th Avenue right downtown Nashville. Service merchandise used to be right downtown, right on the corner. There's a big bank, and right beside of them, and I believe it was on 4th Avenue. 3rd or 4th, was service merchandise. So I went with the truck driver, worked for service merchandise, and wasn't making much money. I was right back in the same, working for the same people that I just got through working for, if you know what I mean. So I wasn't getting paid much for that. So, and the first, never will forget, as long as I live, we stayed out delivering merchandise all over town all day long. It was pitch black dark when I got back in. Of course, it was in the wintertime, because remember, we got back in, and I believe we got back in October. And it was wintertime, and when the wintertime, the sun was already going down at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So when we got back, we parked underneath around the Shelby Street Bridge right in there, or the Woodland Street Bridge 1. They parked a big truck in under there and let me out, and I didn't even know where I was at. I didn't know anything about Nashville, nothing but where my sister lived. That's all I really knew. And the guy let me out, and he got in his car and went home. Now I'm standing out in the middle of the street looking this way and that way and that way and that way. Now, if you ever watched a Western movie, you come to a crossroads, and one town this way and one town that way, another town that way. You can't decide where you want to go. I say, I think I'll go this way. So that's how it was with me. I didn't know where I was going. I could have easily went the wrong direction, but I didn't. Believe it or not, God took care of me. I'm in 7 o'clock at night, pitch black dark, no flashlight, no nothing, under a bridge, beside of a river, not knowing which way to turn. God sent me in the right direction. That's a time when God helped me. He always helps you. He's there all the time. He's never gone. He's always there. and he will never lie to you. He won't cheat you out of nothing. He steered me right up the First Avenue, right up to Hermitage Avenue, right up Hermitage Avenue, which is First Avenue. Hermitage got up top of the hill. The General Hospital was on the left. The project was on the right. Believe you me, there was no even a thought about an interstate going through there at the time. Nobody dreamed about an interstate ever going through there. So I go up Hermitage Avenue, which is First Avenue, and get to the top of the hill. Then I know where I'm at. I see the projects. I know where I'm at. So I go to the house and I go in. I take a bath and everything. I decided that job wasn't for me. It wasn't a hard job, but I wasn't making any money. Back in 1960, nobody was making much money anyway. But so next day I went out hunting another job. Well, how I found another job was there was a guy that lived in the projects right out the back door of my sister's, that he knew a man that was running Nashville Wholesale Molding Company. They sold 2x4s, 1x12, 2x6s. They sold fern. They sold brick mold. They sold all kinds of molding. You name it, and they sold it. And where they were located at was very close to Fruhoff Packing Company. If a lot of you people that's watching this right now, a lot of you, if you were going 3rd Avenue out of town, north, out of town, you would go down there, you would pass the courthouse, and after you pass the courthouse, that's becomes 2nd Avenue, or maybe 3rd Avenue. It's the one that comes out at the end of Jefferson Street Bridge, and I believe it's maybe 3rd Avenue. I'm not sure about that. But anyway, when you go out, let's call it 3rd Avenue. When you go out 3rd Avenue like you was going to right now, the big baseball park they built right off 3rd Avenue and Jefferson Street. So if you were going out of town on 3rd Avenue toward the Jefferson Street Bridge, you would cross over a railroad track. There's a railroad track there, and what it was a spur track where they would bring livestock in, 2x4s in, whatever they was bringing in, they'd bring it in on that spur rail. It wasn't the main track; it was off the main track, and that would get you into all the buildings around there. Well, anyway, right after you cross that railroad track, on the right there, they sold cabbage and lettuce and onions. Produce is a huge wholesale produce company on the right as you cross, going toward Jefferson Street Bridge. On your right, there was a big produce place, and on your left, after you cross the bridge, was a place that sold eggs. Nothing but eggs. That's all they sold on the left side. Well, just after you pass the produce place on your right, about the 3rd lot on the right, was Nashville Wholesale Molding Company. And it had its own railroad track coming into it. And I'll explain about why that is so in a minute. But it had its own track coming in there. And that's the first place that I ever saw put a penny on a railroad track and run over it with a train, and it comes out looking like a football. Pretty cool, actually. So I went in there, told them I was hunting a job, and my job was, and I was the only one working there. I'm the only one now. He got nobody at the time. So he hires me at 90 cents an hour. 90 cents an hour is what I was making. And what my job was when these box cars came in with lumber on them, they would come out of Oregon, and they would be froze together, have snow all over them. Now remember, this is wintertime. And I'm working in the winter. I just got back into Nashville, and I had one job, now I've gone to this one. So he hired me in at 90 cents an hour, and he had a big 2-ton truck, had a 20-foot bed on it, that he also had me delivering stuff in it. But the first thing I had to do was unload these box cars of 2x4s, 2x6s, 2x12s, whatever was on this box cars is what I have to unload. And I had these rollers that come out of the box car, went out into the yard, and I would put as many 2x4s or 2x6s, whatever was in there, on those until it got jamming up down on the end. Then I had to get out of the box car and go down and stack them in stacks in the yard. And I'm doing all this by myself. And when you get a load of 2x4s from Oregon in January, and there's snow on them, and they're stuck together, when you lose one, they may be 10 stuck together. If there's 10 stuck together, that's really better than handling them one at a time. So if they're stuck together, you just lay them over on the side and run them down that chute, down the rollers until they go down to the yard, and then you get out, break them apart, or not break them apart. You really don't have to break them apart. If they come apart, fine. If they don't, you just stack them up out in the yard. And we had, you started out here with 2x4, 2x6, 2x8, 2x10, and then inside the big building, we had all of the moldings, all different brick molding, all kinds of moldings, and some of that stuff's 20 foot long. The molding was, and we had to put that inside, and that most time came in on another truck. It didn't come in by freight car. 2x4s, 2x6s, all that stuff would come in by freight cars. So I would have to get out, go down there and stack all of them up out there in the yard, go back up in now, January now, and here in 1960, January, it would get down to 0 without a problem. Normally 15, 18, 20 degrees all day long. Well, that's what I did all winter long, was unload those boxcars and keep that yard all caught up. Well, springtime come, people started building houses. Then he put me on the truck. I would have to run the yard, stack all the stuff up in the yard. Then I'd load the truck with an order. I'd load this big truck. I never will forget as long as I live. The first run I made was right out here in Madison. By the way, we're broadcasting right now from Larry's Grand Old Garage, 549 East Maple Street in Madison, Tennessee, 37115. I've been meaning to say that. Nobody knows where we are. Well, a lot of people knows where we're broadcasting from, but there's some of you that don't. But we're broadcasting from Larry's Grand Old Garage. I bought this in the year of 2000. Larry's Grand Old Garage in 2000, and this is where we make our bluegrass and country music. Over here, people come over, up to 135, 40 people can come and watch. Right now we can't because we're in this COVID virus, but that's what happens when this is gone and before that. So I've been here since March 15th. Well, actually, I bought the place January the 15th, 2000. And I started Larry's Grand Old Garage making the music at the 15th of March, 2000. So anyway, want everybody knows sort of where we're coming from here. A lot of people don't know, and a lot of people do know. So we're at 549 East Maple Street, Madison, Tennessee, and been here for 20 years now. So let's get back to. I'd stock up everything, so he put me on the truck, and the first delivery I made was out here on Gallatin Road. And I noticed today when I went by, there was they sold 2x4 stuff. It was down behind. Everybody knows where the Madison Bowling Alley is at. Almost just past the bowling alley, almost where you get your emission testing at. And there used to be a yard, a place down there sold 2x4s and fur and lumber and all kinds of stuff down there. That was my first delivery. And I knew nothing about Nashville. I knew nothing about traveling in Tennessee. I knew where nothing was at. I had no idea where Tullahoma, Tennessee was at. Manchester, Tennessee was at. Woodbury, Tennessee. Well, when I went to work for him, I was not only keeping the yard up by myself, I'm still by myself, see. Everywhere I go, I'm doing everything by myself. So I'm pretty used to that. and make a long story. We're not gonna make no long story short. I was told not to say all that stuff, so I won't. We're going to keep it long. That's what we do, is keep it long, because it's gonna be a while before we get done with all these stories, all these episodes. Let me tell you. So he set me out, and I would go to Tullahoma, Tennessee. I would go to Manchester carrying stuff. I'd go to Woodbury, Murfreesboro. I was carrying stuff to Hendersonville, and I have never been to any of them anywhere. And a map back then, all he would do is draw it out on a piece of paper and give me an address and say, follow this road and you'll come into this town and there'll be a so-and-so. Well, I don't know how in the world I ever managed to do anything like that. I'm right off a farm, and I've been upstate New York and back, and that was pretty much straight shot up and straight shot back. Wasn't no running around all the country knowing where things are at or anything. So I didn't have a clue to what I was doing, but I was getting it done. Well, wintertime got over with. Now, it didn't stop the 2x4s and the 2x6s and 2x12s. It didn't stop that from coming in. Thank God we didn't have to handle plywood. He didn't handle plywood. Lord, thank you for not letting him, because that would have probably killed me. However, when I was 18 years old, I was pretty good shape. I was fine shape when I was 18 years old. So anyway, wintertime come and went and springtime come up. And nothing changed. I'm still doing the same thing. So one day he walked in the office and gave me a nickel raise. A big old nickel. I'm making 95 cents an hour. Boy, I'm making a killing. But 95 cents an hour that was pretty normal back then. It wasn't probably a minimum wage. I imagine what that was. But what it was. But it's getting into July now. And you know how hot it is in a boxcar in July the 15th? In the wintertime, in the middle of January, it's about 10 degrees with frozen 2x4s. In July the 15th, it's 120 in that boxcar. So here I am unloading these boxcars. Nothing's changed. I've got a big nickel an hour raise. But I've done something in this episode right here I've never done since, and I wish 1,000 times I'd have never done it. I think it's about the only thing I honest to God regret doing. I really regret doing what I did on this job. And it's not a bad thing, but it is a bad thing. And so anyway, I'm unloading these box cars just like I was in the wintertime. And I've been there coming up on close to a year. Well, this guy that lives behind my sister that got me that job, told me about that job, he come to me and says, Lonnie, he said, I'm working in a place called Regal Manufacturing Company. And he said, you can come over there and make about $1.50 an hour if you're so minded to. He says, I can get you on over there if you want to. I said, well, and he actually came over to where I was working and told me that. And this was in July, around July or August. I'm not sure what month it was. He come over there and told me that. And here's what I regret of doing. Never did it before, never did it after. Sorry I did it then. I pitched those keys to that truck up on the hood of that truck that I'd been driving. And me and him went up those train tracks towards the projects in South Nashville. I left that man high and dry, sorry as I've ever been over doing that. Really. Wish I had never done that. That's not what I do. That's not the kind of guy I am. But at that given moment, that's what I was. That's who I was. It was colder than crap in the wintertime, hotter than crap in the summertime, and I wasn't making but 95 cents an hour. And I'm the one doing it all. And I don't begrudge that man at all. Lord have mercy, he was a nice man. Nice company. It wasn't that at all. It's just, at that moment, at that given time, it was time for me to go. And I hate that I left that man high and dry, but I had the keys to the place, the keys to the truck, and I pitched them up on the hood of that truck. And me and a man by the name of Lucian Underwood went to South Nashville to where he lived and my sister lived. The next day I went to work with him over in right now at Benton Avenue is where it was at. It's on a street called Benton Avenue, and a good friend of mine is going to be here this coming Saturday night, Kevin Dobson. He's working on Benton Avenue right now. How things go around and around. But he's working one block from where I work at Rigo Manufacturing Company on Benton Avenue. And what you did, you'd go like you're going through the fairgrounds, and if you off an old road, you went straight through the fairgrounds. The first red light you come to, you would turn left. I'm not sure what the name of that street is, but you'd go to a four-way stop sign, and that was Benton Avenue. That went right into Benton Avenue, you went left, and you'd go into the fairgrounds again. But Kevin is working at the high-rise on Benton Avenue. They used to be the projects, and I worked there. That's how come Kevin's there, and I got a job there, and I got Kevin a job there. And so Kevin's been there, I think, about 26, 27 years now. But he stayed with it. But that's another story. We'll get a little further on into that. We ain't talking about Rigo Manufacturing Company real good yet. So I go to work for Rigo Manufacturing Company at $1.50 an hour. You talking about a raise, boy, did I get a raise. Well, let me tell you what Rigo Manufacturing Company was, and my first real test where I would stay there or leave. What they do is most every company's got a job nobody wants, and they'll put the new hand on that job. So, and my job was ground red pepper. Ground up red pepper in paper barrels, big paper barrels with lids on them, had rings on them snapped on. They would send that in there, and I'd have to get that out of there, and I'd have to mix that up with something else, whatever it may be, or put it in containers. Take it out of the barrel and put it in containers. Well, if you got to sweating and you been over into that barrel, let nobody kid you, it would burn you up. That pepper just fumes. The pepper, when it's ground up like that, it has fumes like gasoline has fumes, and those fumes off that red pepper would just burn you. I mean, it would you couldn't stand it hardly. But I'd done been through a lot worse than that. Unloading 2x4s in 120 degrees, and unloading 2x4s in 10 degrees. So I wasn't no big deal. So I done that job, and they were happy with me. And then they put me to grinding sage up. Well, sage comes in off of trucks. It comes in bales like hay bales. What you do, and it's got a bag, a tow sack wrapped up in a tow sack, what we call a tow sack. Burlap bags is what they were, but we call them tow sacks back in the country. But they're burlap bags, and so this sage would come in those bags, and you'd put it up in this big grinder, and you'd pour it off in this big grinder. Well, and then we'll forget one day the sack got caught in there. It ground up sack, sage, all, but I finally got it cut loose where it didn't grind up a whole lot. So somebody got some burlap in their sage. I don't know who did. It didn't hurt them. Burlap wouldn't hurt you, but somebody got a little burlap bag in their sage. Somebody, I don't know who did, but a little bit of that ground up in the doggone sage. So I ground sage, and I separated the black pepper. We had black pepper. We ground black pepper, and we took the red pepper and separated it, put it in thing. Excuse me. And right across on the other side of the wall, they were making vanilla flavored, and they were making all kinds of different kinds of food products. I don't remember what everything was, but on the other side of the wall, they were making. On my side of the wall, we were basically making stuff that you ate, And let me take that back. On the other side of the wall, what they were making was rat and mice poison. On the other side of the wall. Only thing separated us was a concrete block. I was making sage, black pepper, ground black pepper, red pepper, all kinds of stuff on my side of the wall, and on that side of the wall, and everybody, I don't remember what the name of that stuff was. We used to, arsenic lead. Everybody knows what arsenic lead is. On the other side of that wall, they were making and it was brand new rat bait out and fly bait out. I think it was called kill coal. What was the name of it? I can't think of it. I think of it directly, but make a long story short, what's so ironic about this thing, on one side of the wall, you're making stuff you eat. On the other side of the wall, you're making poison in the same building. Do you think they can do that today? I don't think so. So I've ground up and how you made rat and mice pellets, and also, this is something you may not know. You have to put more poison in mouse bait than you do rat bait. And the reason for that being is a mouse won't eat as much, so you have to make the poison stronger. The rat he'll eat till he's just bust, and you don't have to put as much poison in the rat pellets, as you do the mice pellets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock off at Rigo Manufacturing Company, because I'm already in there and I'm working, been there about 3 or 4 weeks now, and I'm into making everything and doing everything they do there. So I'm going to knock off there, and what we're going to do, don't forget to come see us at the Friendship Missionary Baptist Church at 101 Flat Ridge Road in Goodlettsville, Tennessee. Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. We have a preaching just won't quit. We'd love to. If you can't come, tune us in. We'd love. You can get on Facebook. I believe that's correct. You can get us on Facebook, and that's a Friendship Missionary Baptist Church. And you can get us on Facebook if you can't come. You will follow us by hitting like on Facebook. Hit like on Facebook if you'll follow us on Facebook, and also subscribe on YouTube. And that will help our ratings tremendously. So we're going to sign off right now, and we're going to come back on episode 12 talking about Rigo Manufacturing Company. And I got some good stories there too. So we're going to play you a couple of numbers right about now. Okay, I appreciate you watching episode number 12, and we'll be seeing you on episode 13. That's my lucky number, 13. See you there. Okay, I appreciate everybody watching number 11. We're watching number 12 right here, and we got some great musicians with us today, as we did in number 11. And we're going to do you a couple of real pretty songs. I hope you'll enjoy them. One of them, Rita's going to do hers first, and called "Holding Up the Ladder." Is that right?
That's it.
B flat. Let's do it. 1, 2, 3.
They're holding up the ladder that I'm climbing on, and I'm climbing up the ladder, and I'm going home. At the top of the ladder, oh, what joy there shall be, and the angels are holding up this ladder for me. As I climb this gospel ladder, always heeding every sign, know my Savior's with me, and He's teaching me to climb. Every day that I'm a-climbing, there's a battle for me. Every step on the ladder is another victory. Oh, they're holding up the ladder that I'm climbing on, and I'm climbing up the ladder, and I'm going home. At the top of the ladder, oh, what joy there shall be, and the angels are holding up this ladder for me. There's a mansion being built for me somewhere in glory land, and this ladder that I'm climbing is a part of His plan. I can hear the angels beckoning, and the climbing don't stop. There's a crown of life awaiting for you when you reach the top. Oh, they're holding up the ladder that I'm climbing on, and I'm climbing up the ladder and I'm going home. At the top of the ladder, oh, what joy there shall be, and the angels are holding up this ladder for me. Oh, they're holding up the ladder that I'm climbing on, and I'm climbing up the ladder and I'm going home. At the top of the ladder, oh, what joy there shall be, and the angels are holding up this ladder for me. And the angels are holding up this ladder for me.
That was fine, Rita.
Yes, it was.
Thank
Great
you.
job, everybody. And Daly and Vincent had this out, and they still got it out, of course, I'm sure. So we're going to attempt to do it. It's called Coming River. Most everybody watching this down around Nashville knows where the Coming River is at. So let's do the Coming River, Ronnie.
1, 2, 3.
I left the little kids out there in a blinding fall, headed for the Southland, all in Sierra Leone. On the way to Miner, saw the sky turn blue, headed for the Southland with a 6-man crew. Coming river, carry me on down the line, sunny Tennessee, church days awaiting, lonely as can be. Coming river, let me feel that southern breeze. On the river, the weather it got rough. Headed for the south bank in a big rock club. Working like a devil, turn this boat around. 2 miles south of Carthage, made it safe and sound. Dublin River, carry me on down the line. Sunny Tennessee, journey maids awaiting, long as can be. Dublin River, let me feel that southern breeze. Days of travel and I'll draw my pay, headed for the Southland, be my Shirley May. Heart and a sorghum and a sack of flour, $15 waiting and 7 cents an hour. Dublin River, carry me on down the line. Sunny Tennessee, Shirley May's waiting, long as can be. Dublin River, let me feel that southern breeze. Dublin River, carry me on down the line. Sunny Tennessee, Shirley May's waiting, long as can be. Dublin River, let me feel that southern breeze. Dublin River, let me feel that southern breeze. Dublin River, let me feel that southern breeze. Thank you so much for watching Number 12, volume number 12, I believe it is. Episode number 12. I think they call them episodes. So thank you for watching episode number 12. We'll see you on episode 13. Thank you.
Died on the cross from a dogwood tree. He gave his life and soul just for you and me. The dogwood was never to grow strong and tall again, for the blood shed that day was on the wood from a dogwood tree.